Well, good afternoon to you. It's 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Congressman Tom Emmer is here. He's the majority whip in the House, and he was just with President Trump in Minnesota this weekend for a big rally alongside JD Vance. We'll talk about that with him and so much more. You can join us at 888-630-9625. 888-630-WMAL. By the way, on JD Vance, the left is trying to use JD's decision to join the ticket alongside President Trump as a way to a jumping off point. Their efforts to attack Trump are falling on deaf ears, mostly because they've tried literally everything they could possibly do to try and take him down. So now they're trying to go after JD Vance and define him for an audience that doesn't necessarily know a ton about him. And they're casting him as weird, and he's so crazy. And, of course, JD Vance is nowhere near as weird as literally anybody in power on the American left. But here is JD Vance's response to Kamala Harris attacking JD for having a lack of loyalty to the United States this weekend. This is perfect. I want to see a lot more of this JD Vance on the campaign trail all the way through November.
I saw the other day Kamala Harris question my loyalty to this country. That's the word she used, loyalty. And it's an interesting word, simplify, loyalty, because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. And I'd like to ask the Vice President, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America? And the answer, my friends, is nothing. So let's send a message to the media. Let's send a message to Kamala Harris. Let's send a message to every hardworking patriot from Minnesota across the country. We are ready to have President Donald J. Trump back, and we're going to work our tails off to make sure it happens. God bless you all. Thank you.
Yeah, JD Vance just absolutely lighting up the stage. A great response to Kamala Harris. And again, I hope I see a lot more of that on the campaign trail. If we see that, these guys, they win. They win in a landslide. And that demonstrates that JD was an excellent pick if he can maintain that momentum by President Trump. Now let's talk about Kamala Harris. You know, there's been quite a bit of debate on the right about the best tactics for defeating this woman in presidential politics. What areas should we focus on? And boy, she's given us a lot of material, hasn't she? Everything from her stupidity when she opens her mouth to her record, her Marxist record, to supporting defund the police movements, to saying that we should take stuff from people and give it to other people, that everyone should be given equal amounts of stuff. There's a lot to go with here. Kurt Schlichter's been thinking about the answer to this question. He's a Townhall Senior columnist. He's a retired infantry Army colonel and the author of the book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. Kurt, great to have you with us, sir.
Hey, great to be here.
All right, so you are writing this week at Town Hall. You say nothing is out of bounds in attacking Kackling Kamala. Tell us what you mean.
Well, look, I hear a lot of people, Vince, out there tone policing what conservatives are supposed to say. We're not supposed to say that she's a weird cackling freak. We're not supposed to say she's a DEI quota queen, and we're supposed to, especially supposed to not be unseemly and improper by pointing out her, romantic ladder climbing early in her political career. And, those arguments may not be the best arguments at a given time or in front of a given audience or delivered by a given messenger. Right. But you know what? Some people they're important to. And I see way too many concerns. Well, we shouldn't talk about her romantic stuff. That's not important. Hold on. Time out. It's important to me. I, Kurt Schlichter, find it repellent and disgraceful, and it makes me disinclined to vote for her.
Yes.
So I am receptive to that message.
I know.
I will decide what an important message is to me. Not anybody else, not the Pearl Clutchers, not the Margaret Dumont faction of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I will decide.
Yeah, I mean, it just creeped you the hell out when you see that picture of her hanging on Montel Williams' arm. That's a creepy photo, isn't it, Kurt Schlichter?
Oh, good Lord! The payday loan hero, and
I know.
And Kamala. It's just yikes.
It is a yikes
you know
thing.
what?
But a lot is, but one of the pieces of this debate is, to the extent that people are having, and so long as they're not tone policing, I'm fine with talking about what the best line of attack is here.
Exactly.
She has established a really horrific record while she's been vice president of the United States. A lot of vice presidents just kind of fade into obscurity and don't do anything with the job. She was given the responsibility of tackling the border crisis, and boy, Kurt, it's as bad as it's ever been.
Well, I was informed by all the smart people that when she was appointed border czar and called the border czar and doing the border czar job, that she wasn't actually the border czar. And why are you such a transphobe for saying so?
Yeah, I've noticed. But I do think it's worth holding on to the truth and fighting back, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Look, hit her with everything, but pick your audience, pick your attack. Look, Donald Trump, I think, is doing a great job. Yeah, he should mock her a little for being weird. Yeah, the DEI stuff's useful. I don't think the romantic stuff is useful for him.
Right.
I do note that the Democrats weren't so picky about romantic rhetoric when it came to Donald Trump. But, that's neither here nor there. I'm about winning. His hits on her communist policies have been devastating, and they'll continue to be devastating. My view is this is the week that Kamala peaked, that we got, max excitement. It's down here all the way, starting with the Pete Buttigieg's White Dudes for Trump Zoom call tonight, which I just wish I could be a part of.
Well, why not? You can't. Have they excluded you? Are you on a blacklist or something, so to speak?
I'm look. With a name like Schlichter, I'm pretty much as white and as dude as you possibly can be. But somehow there's a lot of stuff in there about, being a man is about sharing your feelings and a feeling of strength among men and stuff. And, perhaps I'm not the best guy for that kind of
I know how to keep Kurt Schlichter out of that call. All you do is add a field that asks for pronouns, and then Kurt's going to bail on it. He's like, I'm not filling this crap out. So, yeah, they do have that white men for Trump. What do you make of all of these segregated meetings that the left is holding to get Kamala elected? Do you think that they're aware that they're getting back to their roots, or are they so ahistoric that they're not really tapping into that theme?
Look, to be a leftist is to be irony-free. it does, if they all came out in white sheets and white hoods, yes. they wouldn't understand that they're just getting back to their Democrat roots. If I had the misfortune of hearing some of the white ladies for Kamala stuff.
Yeah.
With a bunch, and all I could think of was, boy, was JD right. There, as white people, as white women, we have to use our privilege for good, and we have to listen and learn. And it's like, oh my gosh, put down your Chardonnay, have some personal self-respect. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah. And one of the great ironies of a call like that is they all got on it to hear themselves speak and talk about how much they needed to start listening.
Exactly. If there's one thing awful liberal wine women are not good at, it's listening. They're very good at telling, particularly on the manager. But wow.
Yeah.
It's just that's why I'm not buying the Kamala excitement, because the people getting excited are all the most annoying people on earth. I've actually been in Texas and New Mexico, Arizona lately, and I have heard zero people talking about Kamala.
Kamala
Okay,
Mentum.
there's Kamala Mentum. Camelot.
Kamala.
God,
Well, they have that today. I know you're probably citing the magazine cover, but New York Magazine has a big cover today, Camelot, and she's like featured on the cover, and they've got all these Democrats all like crooning around her. She's the emperor now. It's amazing how quickly, and typical, of course, totally predictable, the media turned on a dime to suggest that Kamala is unseen in her greatness.
Well, that's the thing. You know, if you're going out to your mailbox at your condo, making sure that Wellington, your Abyssinian cat, doesn't get out by accident, you're probably already voting for the Democrat.
Right.
Okay, there aren't a lot of New York Magazine guys going, you know, I was up in the air between her and Trump. Then I saw this cover. I want to be a part of the magic.
Yeah, well, it's right. I mean, that's all just base service, isn't it? They're just trying to get enough energy out there that they can get these guys to open up their wallets and get out to the polls. I mean, but there's not a lot of like middle America pitches going on here. She started her campaign last week, Kurt Schlichter, by going on with RuPaul's Drag Race. So they made it really clear up front that they're speaking to only the most radical elements of their party.
Yeah, I mean, it's JD Vance who's the weirdo. Yeah, look, look, there was always going to be some excitement. There was always going to be some people coming home who were like, I just can't vote for Biden. I mean, he's senile. I mean, let's get serious. And that's what the polls have shown. The polls are essentially where they were at for Biden before the disastrous debate.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm worried about. I can't do anything about them except mock them, which I'm going to.
Sure.
I can do some about us. Guys, if you want Donald Trump, if you want to take America back from these weird communist mutants, you better work. If you get on, look, I know Kamala is a clown and ridiculous, and she's the most left-wing candidate ever, and she's going to be on the ticket of a major party, and she can win. You must not be complacent. You must not take anything for granted. You must not sit there and go, oh, well, this is over. I don't have to do anything.
Right.
Go vote. Go tell your friends to vote. Go volunteer. Go make phone calls. Write checks. Guys, we've got to play like we're 10 points behind.
Let me ask you what happens if things go poorly, Kurt Schlichter. If Kamala Harris becomes the next president of the United States, how does that compare to a Joe Biden presidency?
Well, look, whether Joe Biden got I think the end state was always the same, President Kamala, and I think it's going to be a disaster. I think these people are not only evil, they are stupid, and they don't have the capacity not to push beyond the reasonable, rational limits. Look at the Olympics thing. The Olympics didn't have to go and mock Christians. They didn't have to do that.
No.
They did it gratuitously because it was fun. And then there was a giant pushback, and they ended up backpedaling and apologizing, and they're going to take a hit in the ratings. I don't know a single conservative who's going to spend any time on the Olympics because they went and disrespected our faith in such a disgusting and weird and fat manner. So, you know, with Kamala, I can see her going, well, I've got all these great ideas about how to screw with our enemies. Let's just push them. And, you know, who knows how that ends?
Yes. Yeah. No, the thing I worry about with Kamala is that, so Biden is sort of an empty vessel for the left's ambitions. What's dangerous about Kamala is that she will also be a channel for those ambitions, and she's just insecure enough that she's going to try and exercise power on her own, which I think makes it all the more dangerous.
Yes, and she'll do it foolishly. This is not a woman who's had executive power. This is not, well, I mean, neither is Biden. This is a person who doesn't have the kind of human experience that you get not growing up in San Francisco Bay Area.
Right.
Okay, where I grew up. I grew up as a kid there. I understand these people. I've known them forever. My mom was a elected judge one county over, and I got to tell you, everybody hated the San Francisco Democrats. They were just obnoxious. They were completely out of touch. They were out of touch to the county next door. And they will do things that will tear America apart. And she's just stupid enough. She's not smart enough. Look, at least Obama could pretend to bring people together.
I got to give San Francisco credit, though. I didn't know it was possible to produce both you and Kamala Harris. I didn't think that was in the cards.
Hey, man, I'm from San Mateo, right? But I went to school at the same time as Greg Gutfeld. His school was just a quarter mile away from mine.
Well, some good people came out of there, no question. Great, beautiful state produced some great people. Ronald Reagan, one of them. Hey, thank you very much, Kurt Schlichter. Good to talk to you, sir. I mean, if you're gonna have political enemies, may they be ridiculous, and these guys definitely are. Coming up, Congressman Tom Emmer is with us. He's got a lot to say about the other guy running for president. Well, actually, Joe's not anymore. Donald Trump is, and he was just in Minnesota. Tom Emmer was with him. We'll discuss. Welcome back to the Vince Coglianese Show. Here is some sound from President Trump's visit to St. Cloud, Minnesota this weekend.
We're pleased to be joined tonight by many fantastic Minnesota patriots, including House Majority Whip, and I can tell you he's a tough guy and a strong guy, and we've become, I really believe, really good friends, and he's working the state. He's going to give me the biggest surprise on November 5th. Tom Emmer, great guy.
A very energetic rally, and the man you just heard President Trump mention joins me now. Congressman Tom Emmer represents Minnesota's 6th Congressional District, and he's the House Majority Whip. Sir, good to have you on the phone today. Thank you very much.
Great to be with you, Vince.
Have you seen a rally like this in Minnesota before?
There was only one that I could compare it to. The answer is no, but I will compare it to 2016 when we were talking to the president about going to Duluth, Minnesota, which is just 60 miles southeast of the Iron Range, right? The famous Iron Range in Minnesota, which had been controlled by Democrats, Vince, for 78 of the previous 80 years.
Wow.
And we talked about it's going to be a religious experience. Well, I'll tell you what. They packed that place. There were 25,000 people that were around that arena. They did it in a hockey arena in Minnesota, in Duluth. But this one, Vince, oh, my gosh. I mean, this is only within 50 minutes or an hour of downtown Minneapolis. And they did it in an inside venue, which the paper reported he got a capacity crowd of 8,000. Vince, it's a hockey arena. And it holds 8,000 when you don't have ice when you have ice in the arena. But when you don't, they gave out 12,000 tickets. The fire marshal had to cut off the people that were being allowed in because it was getting to be a fire danger. It was overflow on the inside. And then if you look to the outside, you could not see the end of the crowd that was assembled outside of the arena watching everything on the screen. And I mean, the president will tell you, I have people who have been to all these rallies. It was incredible. And the best statement I'll give you, Vince, is one of the people that's been at many rallies said to me, you know, I'm not going to tell you it was the best ever, but I can't think of one that was better.
Yeah, the bar is so high for that, and President Trump constantly keeps setting it. It is the most unusual phenomenon that any of us have seen in politics in our lives. And he did it once again in Minnesota this weekend. Very cool to see. My impression from all the way over here watching that is that Minnesota in many ways is still reeling from the events of 2020, the George Floyd riots that kicked off there. And I know that was the subject in part of President Trump's remarks this weekend because he talked about the role that Kamala Harris played in stoking the chaos. Can you talk about that a little bit and to what extent that's going to be a fixture during this campaign now?
Yeah, there's the Minnesota Freedom Fund, Vince, was created to raise money from donors to bail out criminals. These are people that were burning down Minnesota. These are Minneapolis. These are people that were assaulting peace officers. And Kamala Harris, by the way, local Twin Cities media has tried to rewrite history, much like some of our national corrupt mainstream media folks have been trying to rewrite Kamala's history, but they can't on this one. She advocated for people to put money into the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and they might have changed it yesterday or today, but as of this weekend, her name is still on the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And look, she was instrumental in releasing multiple criminals, including 2, Vince, who went and committed murder. This is on Kamala Harris. Her hands, the blood is on her hands from those families that lost loved ones because she had criminals released from prison. This gal is anti-cop. She's anti-Israel. She's anti-fracking, which means she's anti-energy. She's the reason that we have 20% inflation the last 3.5 years under her and Biden, Harris and Biden's administration, because she was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate for the Green New scam that kicked off this inflation. So it was definitely the topic of discussion. But I just got to add, you talked about this president being a phenomenon. You realize that was his 3rd event of the day, Vince. He had done one in the morning. He had spoken to the Bitcoin conference, incredibly well received in Nashville, and then he came to Minnesota and he gave a 90-minute talk where people were just mesmerized and in their seats going crazy. In fact, they were actually yelling as it was time for him to go, "Please don't go."
Yeah, it's cool to see. And encouraging, too, because this last week, as the media, you point out, the corrupt press has really circled the wagons around Kamala Harris, attempted to reinvent her very personality, and then insisted that her campaign is the best of all time. The left has, at least for the moment, created an artifice of energy around the Kamala Harris campaign. As you're out there on the road, and you're out there, including in Minnesota, and you go to rallies like this, what do you think of the campaign that the left is mounting now with Kamala Harris as their candidate versus the campaign that Donald Trump is waging?
Well, I mean, Donald Trump is consistent, and he is going to continue to draw these enormous crowds because people remember what life was like in a Trump economy. People remember what life was like when it was peace through strength around the world. I mean, people respected this country, so that's not going to change. On the other side, I would just say they did something very undemocratic. They pushed a guy off the ballot. You literally, I believe, figuratively had Obama knifing him and Nancy Pelosi pushing him over the edge. And now you've got Kamala. So there's going to be a little burst of, excitement, much like there was, remember, when she ran for president. There was that initial burst of energy, and then the lady started talking. And when that happened, she tanked. She actually pulled out before Iowa with 1 to 3% of the vote. And Vince, people should expect, because of this corrupt media, that there are going to be great stories next week when she picks a vice presidential running mate, so her numbers will probably get better. Then they're going to have their convention, and they'll have great stories from that. People should expect that because the mainstream media and these political elites will try to protect that campaign, that the numbers that you'll see will tighten. She might even end up being ahead in a couple of them. But after we get through Labor Day, when people start to engage again, and it's about the economy, it's about the border and crime, it's about all of this violence around the world caused by Harris and Biden. Harris doesn't even know where these places are, by the way. Remember, she hasn't been to the border and she hasn't been to Europe. Yeah. So, we're going to be good. Minnesota, there's a poll out right now that shows Trump is down by 6, but I know he's got one that shows him up by 1. We got a long way to go. It's 99 days. People will start voting in Minnesota on September 20th.
Yes.
I really think we can flip Minnesota for the first time in 50 years. Donald Trump can flip Minnesota.
Well, it's important that people think the race is close because it means that they'll fight all the harder to win it. So I don't mind the polls showing Trump trailing in any of these places because that means more and more people who want to fight for decency are going to have the incentive to do that. And the other thing here, Congressman, you mentioned a moment ago, and I know I've seen some headlines with your name attached to them, talking about when Kamala Harris begins speaking in a candid way, that this is going to jeopardize their campaign, meaning if she's off script, and I completely agree with that. I've been saying that, right now, insofar as the Trump campaign should have a strategy, it should be to encourage Kamala Harris to speak more in public, that we need to basically force her to take a press conference. I don't care how nice the questions are to her. Just get her off script in front of a microphone and that's when she starts plummeting, Congressman.
Oh, Vince, just ask her a question like, so Kamala, how would you stimulate economic growth?
Yeah.
I mean, she has no idea how to do that. Kamala, what would your foreign policy look like? I mean, are we going to put the Hamas in charge of the region? She just doesn't have any clue, and that's why when she starts talking and she gets off of her main subjects, which are women's health and race, she can't hold a candle to Donald Trump because he actually knows how to get the economy going. He actually understands how to keep this country safe, both here at home and around the world. He understands how to take care of the crime issue. He gets it. And guess what, Vince? The average American knows he gets it. That's why they're going to vote for him.
Yeah. You know, the Kamala Harris campaign, one of the most brazen things about them, first of all, they have such a freakish campaign, Congressman, if I'm being completely honest, because like she started this past week with like, you know, she did a drag queen show last week. The RuPaul's Drag Race, that was one of her first campaign events as their candidate. You know, this past week, there have been a number of these segregated donation drives that they're doing where they only have people of certain skin colors and genders together. Last week, it was black women, then there was white women, and today, I guess, it's white men for Kamala. And I'm just looking at all this, Congressman, and going, holy crap, they're literally having segregated campaign events, and they're acting like this is normal. And the rest of us are saying, no, we know what normal is, and it's not what you're doing.
No, and I think that what you and I are going to see, Vince, as we get into the voting part of fall up till November 5th, a lot of people are disgusted by this type of behavior. They understand right from wrong. They understand that these people have been lying to them for years. These people, meaning Kamala Harris and her ilk, they've been taking the high road in Washington, D.C., telling all the little people on Main Street across this country, you don't understand. You're not smart enough to understand. We'll tell you. Well, guess what? Those people are going to tell them in November that we've had enough. And my grandfather's Democrat Party ain't coming back after this one. It has become the socialist, Marxist, radical left party of America. And by the way, they're leaving behind their traditional base, black voters, Hispanic voters, Asian voters, liberal Jews, who are now available for Donald Trump's message. And I think you're going to see a lot of them cross over and vote for Donald Trump.
Finally, on that question, to what extent are you seeing that demographic shift right now? We saw, even labor union guys have been moving more and more in President Trump's direction. You're watching a lot of demographic shift. Right now, Hispanic voters are a coin toss in the country about whether or not they'll vote for a Democrat or a Republican. A lot of change has taken place. How much of that is going to be occurring this year?
Well, I mean, first off, when you talk about the private unions, you're never going to get union membership to support, but he's going to get the membership, which is much bigger. I mean, you talk about Minnesota, he has completely transformed the union-dominated Iron Range. That is Trump country, like you've never seen before. But I think use the black vote. I think this applies to Hispanic, Asian, other. Trump got 7%, I believe, of the black vote in 2020. He's polling close to 20% right now. That's just an example of that shift that I think we're going to see more and more of, by the way. Donald Trump is the catalyst for all of this. But if Republicans, once we take back the White House with Donald Trump, once we flip the Senate in November and we hold the House, if Republicans will do what we were sent there to do, which is get the budget, the spending under control, have a plan to start paying down and ultimately pay off the debt so our children have the future that we all would like them to have. If we do that stuff, Vince, Donald Trump will be instrumental in setting us on a course of Republicans could be governing this country for the next 50 years, much like Democrats did in the last century.
All right, we'll see. Congressman Tom Emmer, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate that. Look forward to chatting with you again soon, sir.
Sounds good, Vince.
All right,
take care.
Thank you. This Biden speech in Texas, a total disaster. He sounds like a less energetic Swedish chef.
So I kept trying to change the Democratic Party in my state, which is very conservative. And then a group of people came to me, as my senator knows, Chris Coons, came to me and said, look, we want you to run for state senate. I said, I can't. I can't go to Dover all the time. I'm just starting a law firm. I'm a part-time public defender. And then they came back to me and said, why don't you run for the county council? I said, I can't. They said, you stupid SOB, it's right across the street there. I'm serious. Meets only twice a week.
Anyway, so he rambled for a long time, and it was, typical. I hope he keeps getting on the campaign trail, though. A good juxtaposition to a lively Trump campaign. That's critical here. Let's see here. I've got Brian calling in from Front Royal, line 2. Brian, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Thanks for taking the call, Vince.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, actually, Kayleigh McEnany coined the term the Kamala's Camelot, and then New Yorkers stole it from her. She said that a week ago.
Oh, okay.
But really what's going to happen is, Joe Biden will resign as president of the United States due to Parkinson's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And we will hear Madam President from now till November 5th. And they will use Hollywood and every lever of power that they have in the media, from local to national media, to just inundate and saturate the airwaves with the historic, wonderful, beautiful. She's gorgeous, and she's so eloquent. Oh, what a great black woman president we have. And that's what they're going to do.
So you think that we haven't, so Brian, you think that we haven't reached the most vomit-inducing part of the media?
Oh, no. We haven't reached the zenith of the media's total bootlicking activities on behalf of the deep state and the Democrat Party.
No question. Well, this is, as Ben Carson said.
The Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself.
That's exactly right. And as Ben Carson said, this is really a test of the media's ability to rig this election. This is the great test. How far can they push things? But I have to say, this question of whether or not Biden resigns and Kamala becomes president now, in a sense, I would actually be fine with that, because go ahead, rip the Band-Aid off. Go ahead. Oh, it's not historic anymore. She wouldn't become the first woman president. She already is. We've done it. History achieved. Let's move on. Whatever they want to do.
If they did that, though, Vince, then actually she would be the 47th president of the United States of America.
Fine by me.
And so Trump would have to change all his hats to say 47 to 48.
That's true. They would do. Maybe they would do that out of spite.
The next president of the States, legally elected. She never got a vote from anybody.
Yeah. Exactly right. Thank you, Brian. Good call. And you're right. I do. We have these very low expectations for the press, and somehow they figure out a new way to dive beneath them every week. Stay with us. We're keeping track of VP Watch. Who's Kamala going to choose for her running mate? Who's out there talking to their spouse right now, significant other, telling them, hey, I'm going to join a losing campaign. It's going to be very exciting. We'll give you the updates as they come. The great one up next.